Hello everyone, tonight I am going to tell you a story that will slowly wrap around your mind like a cold hand and keep tightening until you can barely breathe. A story about silence, shadows, and a village that no longer exists on maps yet still breathes in whispers. The story of an abandoned place where time itself has stopped, where doors remain open as if waiting for someone to come home, where plates of food still rest on tables untouched, and where the air carries the cries of voices you cannot see. So imagine for a moment that you are walking with me, a lantern in your hand and the forest path stretching endlessly before you, the trees above so dense that the moon can only spill fragments of silver between the branches, your steps crunching against dried leaves that sound far too loud in the oppressive silence, and suddenly after hours of walking you see it. Outline of roofs and chimneys ahead, a village hidden away from the world, a place no traveler dares to enter, because those who did never returned the same, if they returned at all. The villagers of nearby towns refuse to speak its name, claiming that to do so invites the curse into your home, yet curiosity is a cruel master, and so the tale continues. Long ago this was not an empty place. Children played in the dusty streets. Farmers worked the fields, the sound of laughter echoed in the evenings, smoke curled from chimneys, bells rang at the small temple, and life moved forward as it does anywhere until one night everything stopped. No one knows exactly why. Some whisper that a wandering hermit cursed them after being mocked. Others say a disease devoured them in a single night. But what confuses historians is that when travelers first stumbled upon the village decades later, found no bodies, no graves, not even signs of struggle, only homes frozen in time, beds unmade, meals unfinished, doors unlocked, as if every soul had vanished mid-motion. And that is where our story truly begins, with a young historian named Armin who refused to believe in ghost stories. To him, the world had explanations, every legend had a root in fact, and so he packed his notes, a lantern, and an iron heart, determined to spend nights in the forgotten village, to find truth where others saw only fear. His friends begged him not to go, warning him that even the bravest had returned broken, their eyes hollow and their speech incoherent, but he dismissed them with a smile, telling himself that people feared what they did not understand. And so one autumn evening, with mist clinging low to the earth, he began his journey, the forest growing denser with each step, the sounds of birds fading until only his own heartbeat filled his ears. Finally, as the moon climbed higher, he saw the village appear like a shadow given form, broken houses leaning against each other, the old well in the center standing like a black eye that swallowed the moonlight, the silence so heavy that even his breath felt intrusive. He stepped into the first house, brushing past cobwebs, the air thick with dust and yet strangely sharp as if freshly disturbed. Inside he found a chair toppled over, an open book on the floor with ink that looked as though it had just dried, and on the bed a dog with glass eyes staring directly at him. He told himself it was coincidence, that time had simply preserved these objects, but deep down unease coiled in his stomach. He began to write in his notebook, describing the strangeness of the place. The way bread left on a table had hardened but never molded, the way buckets of water near the well still had liquid, though years had passed, as if nothing here truly decayed. And when night descended he lit his lantern, its glow trembling against the cracked walls. Outside the silence deepened, unnatural, suffocating, until he began to hear them. Whispers, faint at first, as though carried by a breeze, yet there was no breeze. He stepped outside, the whispers growing clearer, echoing all around him though no figure could be seen. He followed them to the well, peering into its depth, the darkness rising up like a living thing, cold brushing against his face, and in that instant he felt a pull, not on his body but on his mind, an urge to lean forward, to fall into the endless black. Stumbling back with a gasp he hurried to the house. Yet the whispers followed, louder, layered, not one but many, men and women and children all speaking at once, their tones filled with desperation, with fear, pleading for something he could not yet understand. His hand shook as he scribbled frantic notes. His lantern flickered violently, And then in an instant the light went out, plunging him into complete darkness. Fumbling with matches, he struck one, the tiny flame illuminating his trembling face, and in that moment he saw them, blurred figures standing in corners, shapes made of smoke and shadow, eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams, vanishing as quickly as he blinked. The match burned down to his fingers, and he dropped it with a hiss, lighting another quickly, his whisper shaking, convincing himself that it was imagination, yet deep inside he knew the truth. The village was not abandoned, it was occupied, but not by the living. As night stretched endlessly, he refused to sleep. Every creak of wood and every faint rustle of leaves outside filled him with dread, until finally dawn crept in, the sun casting pale light across broken walls, the whispers fading, the air loosening its grip. Though relief did not come, instead curiosity demanded more. He explored house after house, each one eerily preserved, a table set dinner but never eaten, a toy train resting mid-track, a letter half written, as if life had paused in the middle of a breath, until at last he reached the temple, its doors scarred by time but still standing. Pushing them open, he stepped inside, the air heavy with the faint smell of incense. The decades had passed, statues lined the walls, their faces worn but watchful, and at the center lay a cracked bell silent for years. He touched it lightly, its echo dull yet unnaturally deep, as though the earth itself groaned. Crouching down, he noticed carvings etched into the stone floor, symbols he did not recognize, circles within circles, strange marks that seemed to move when he stared too long, pulsing faintly as though alive. Dread washed over him, and he realized this was not just a village but a ritual ground, a place bound by forces beyond reason. As night fell again, he chose to stay in the temple, lighting candles that shook violently with each breath of air, though the windows were sealed. He studied the carvings. The longer he gazed, the more they shifted into faces, hundreds of eyes, mouths whispering silently, and at midnight the air thickened, the earth trembled. Shadows moved, and the whispers returned, this time louder, turning into cries, into screams, voices overlapping, begging for release. And then he understood. The villagers were still here, trapped in their final moment, bound by a curse that froze them in time, their spirits circling endlessly. When he backed away in terror, the candles all blew out at once, darkness swallowing him whole, and in that darkness he felt them, cold hands gripping his shoulders, desperate, pulling him backward. He screamed and struck another match, the light flaring bright, revealing empty air yet purple marks of fingers remained imprinted on his skin. He stumbled out of the temple and ran to the house where his belongings lay, only to find his notebook open, words scrawled across the pages that he had not written, the same phrase repeated over and over, "Free us, free us, free us." His hands shook violently as he closed the book, stuffing it into his bag, determined to flee at first light. Yet dawn came slowly, the village clinging to him, the air pressing heavy as though unwilling to let him go. And when at last he stepped beyond its borders, the whispers followed, lingering in his ears for miles. When he finally returned to the city, he was never the same, eyes dark, voice hollow. He spoke of the village once and only once before vanishing from public view. Some say the village called him back. Others believe he carried the curse with him. For those who read his notebook claim writing continues to change, new words appearing each night, always the same plea, "Free us, free us, free us." And so if you ever find yourself wandering too far into forgotten forests, if you stumble upon a place where the air is too still and the silence too loud, remember this story. Remember the abandoned village where time stands still, and ask yourself before you step inside whether you are ready to listen to whispers that will never leave you, because once you hear them, they will follow you forever.